Hey everybody, my name is Novatemi, and today we'll be taking a step back to talk about Clip Studio Paint, how to navigate it, how to set up your workspace, what you need and don't need, and how to use some of its tools to help you in your drawing. So here's the thing, Clip Studio Paint is absolutely overwhelming when you first open it, but most of the tools that you see on the screen, all the little pop-down windows and stuff like that, you most likely won't be using them at all. Today, I'll be going through and showing you which tools you should keep and which ones you should get rid of, because Clip Studio Paint is highly customizable. You can get rid of a lot of these little pop-up tool windows and change your UI to be more effective and less cluttered. I'll show you what the tools do and why you should or shouldn't use them. I'll show you how I have mine set up so that you can decide if you want to do something similar, and I'll show you how to actually get rid of or add the toolbars. I'll also be briefly going over things like layers and screen layers, and I'll be talking about what the different tools do and how to use them effectively, that sort of thing. I'll also be brushing over, pun intended, brushes and how to add them. I'm going to be making a separate video for brushes and like which ones I use, how I pick them out, how you can pick out your own brushes, how to navigate the little store, that kind of thing. I'll be making a separate video about that, so don't worry too much about it quite yet. But this is just, you know, because a lot of people open Clip Studio Paint, they go, oh my god, there's so much happening, help. You know, I don't know what's going on. Clip Studio Paint it's a professional software, so it's made for, you know, industry use, that sort of thing, and, you know, so for a beginner who doesn't know what the tools do, it's over-equipped to be, you know, used for many different things. So if you are a beginner and you don't know where to start, this is the best video for you. I probably should have done this before the other one. My bad. People kept asking me for the guidelines video, and I was so excited to get it done, and it was such a long video. I didn't really think about how I should probably talk about how to set up Clip Studio first, so hindsight is 2020. We're here. Today I'll be going over everything, so let's just jump right into it. Very quickly, before we start, let me take you to my desktop and show you how to actually launch Clip Studio Paint. Chances are you see something like this on your screen when you first use the shortcut to open the app. This is just a little landing page that, you know, kind of advertises different brushes and Clip Studio Paint updates. They host a lot of challenges, that sort of thing. This is also how you would best get to your shop to download brushes and stuff. In order to actually launch Clip Studio, you want to click on this right here that says Draw, and it should automatically launch the software for you. Okay, so we're in. This is my personal layout. Yours is almost certainly not going to look exactly like this, but don't panic. We will fix it to make sure that yours is nice and clutter-free like mine. Most likely when you open up Clip Studio Paint, you'll see a window that looks like this. It should automatically open, I believe. This is where you can change things like your resolution and stuff, and it will always ask you to do this whenever you make a new canvas, right? I personally recommend using these dimensions when you draw. I recommend using 3000 by 3000 pixels, and I recommend using a 300 resolution. It's 300 DPI. You'll see it in the little drop-down menu. It should be one of the options you can quickly select. You shouldn't have to mess with anything else. Obviously, make sure that you're using the illustration tab, and when you have this all set up, you can go ahead and click this button to save it as a preset. You can see I have a couple different presets down here that I've created for myself. I have some specifically for like stickers, specific sizes for printing, that kind of thing. Also things for like webtoon and illustrations. Right now I'm using a custom one. This is my default. 3000 by 3000 is a really good place to start. Now, the reason why we start with a big canvas is because it prevents us from having a very pixelated and sort of crusty piece. When you have a large canvas and you force yourself to draw large, you can fit more details in, things will look smoother, and it won't be as like fuzzy and sort of low quality. It also won't be as small when you try to use it on like a website or something like that. Now, you may have to resize something if you're trying to draw like a profile picture, or sometimes even just a post for social media. It has to be under a certain size. You can quickly resize things. I'll show you how to do that later. But generally, I always start with this and then work my way down if I have to resize it. So I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. Another thing that you can do here, you'll see that you can actually set your file name ahead of time so that it won't ask you to name your file later. You can do that if you want, if you already know what you're going to call it, but I usually just hit OK. I already have it set up and ready to go. So this is my personal layout. You can see I have my color wheel. I have this here. This is a navigator. You can drag and drop it. It lets you quickly zoom in and out with this little bar here. You can also zoom in little sections and completely zoom out and reframe your canvas quickly. You can also use this to rotate your canvas, and these bars are actually mirrored down on the bottom here, so you can also do it down here as well, and it has the same tools and everything down there. You can flip your canvas with these two buttons here. Like, for example, if I draw a little guy, this is really messy because I'm just doing that in 2 seconds. If I flip this, I can see if it's symmetrical. Like if you're trying to draw a face and you want to make sure that the eyes are on the same level, or that your face isn't sloping down to one side, you can use the flip tool in order to make sure that it's actually symmetrical. You can also flip something upside down if you're drawing something that is sort of mirrored that way, or even if you're just drawing a character who's upside down, you can draw it right side up and then you can flip it and they'll be upside down. So that's definitely something you can do. To quickly clear your layer without having to delete it and make a new one, you can go up to this little button up here that sort of looks like a firework and press that, and it will delete everything on the layer that you currently have selected. I'll talk a little bit more about layers after we're done with all the layout. I have a tool here that lets you quickly resize your brush by dragging this, as well as your brush's opacity. I have my actual brushes here. I have like a custom thing for my brushes, and I'll teach you how to do that in the brush video when I do make one. All these little sidebar things here are pretty much just default. I haven't touched them much. Tool property lets you change various things about your brush, and I'll go into that later in the brush video. But generally speaking, this is how I have mine laid out. I also have things like layer property, which lets me do things like add white borders that I can adjust the size of to my text or specific layers. And I also have color history, which shows me all of the colors that I've used recently. So if I use a color and then change to a different color, I can go here and switch back to the ones I've used recently. Like if I use this color, it would help if I had a brush out, and I quickly, change this to this color, but I want to use this one again, and maybe it's blended with some other ones, so it's hard for me to just, use the dropper tool. I can go to my color history and click on that little square and get the exact same color back. So that's just a quick little tool you can use. You can see I use it for quite a bit, and it saves your color history for a long time. Like a lot of this stuff down here, I use that for some New Year's art. Pretty much every single time you even change your color a little bit, you'll get this, like all this pink stuff here. You can see I probably use that for like a Temmie drawing or something because her hair is pink. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do. So that, I think, is just the bare minimum that you should have set up so that you can draw easily. And now I'm going to go ahead and show you the default layout and how you can change it to sort of be less cluttered like mine is, because this is not what you're going to see when you open the app. What you're going to see when you open the app is actually this. And this is hideous, especially if you have a smaller drawing tablet like mine. I have the XP Pen Artist 12 Pro, so my drawing space from like the corner to the corner, it's about 12 inches for me, which isn't terrible. It's about the size of a full sheet of printer paper, but that also means that all these toolbars are sort of crammed in. I have just a little square to draw in when everything is set up like this. So what I personally like to do is I like to resize things, and there's also a lot of these little tabs that you'll never use that we can get rid of to declutter it even more. We want to make sure that everything is nice and organized in our workspace so that we don't get confused and so it's less overwhelming. The best way to get rid of stuff that you're not going to use, and I'll use this as an example, like this here. I will never use this. I don't recommend using these color palette things. It just gives you very basic color palettes. You'll want to learn how to work with color yourself, so we can go ahead and click on this, hold it, and drag it off, and it will actually create a little pop-up window, which you can use if you'd like, but I would recommend clicking on the X button to get rid of this, and you can reopen that at any time by going into the window, the window drop down option and finding it down here. But I would recommend getting rid of that for now. I'm going to go ahead and show you all the stuff that we should get rid of and how I like to move some things around in order to make room for them. You can actually click and drag something and you'll see a red highlight come up. This is actually showing you where you're about to place this thing. Like, for example, if I wanted this to be on the side of my screen, I could place it here and it would be moved here. If I want to take it and place it, you know, above this, I can put it up here, which is actually where I'm going to be putting it. You can also go to the edge of each little toolbar thing and you can resize them. So I like to make this one small so that it's you know, horizontal instead of vertical because it takes up less space. I also like to take this toolbar on the side and shrink it so that it's actually just one row instead of two. I also like to sort of make this a little bit smaller, and a lot of this stuff down here we're going to be straight up getting rid of. So your color wheel, I like to put my color wheel on the other side of the screen because I'm right-handed and it's easier to do this than it is to go all the way over here. I like to go ahead and click and drag it. I like to put it right between my navigator, which is this thing, and the layers area. So I'll put it right here, and I'll actually make it a bit bigger. For the color wheel, I recommend using the specific triangle color wheel, which you can switch to through this little thing here. What I've noticed is with the square color wheel, you'll end up getting colors that are a lot muddier than you would if you just used this one, because this whole zone here has a lot of these like really ugly desaturated colors that you're most likely not going to be using much in your art if you want it to have like a less muddy gray feel. For example, this is a color that I've taken towards the center of the wheel. You know, just these sort of dark, very desaturated, almost like a dark gold shading sort of color. If we go ahead and switch this, you'll find that the center of the wheel will actually give you a richer color. And especially as you head towards, you know, the point of the saturation, it'll give you a lot more color than the square one, whereas you'd have to go way up here just to get that color, instead of still being in, you know, not that far. Like if I go into this general area in the middle, you can still get a pretty saturated color. It's just a darker version without it being this like gray barf color, which you really don't like. I notice it especially in like the yellow range of color, but also in pink. A lot of lighter pink that you'd be using, like if we do like a very warm pink, a lot of it is going to be along the edge here, but if you go kind of in the middle, you'll end up with this sort of like weird mauve color. Same with purple as well. You end up with this kind of very desaturated, if we go to the square. Pretty much anything in this range is going to be really ugly looking. Like you're not going to be using a lot of this color in your illustrations unless you very specifically want that color, which you can still find on this wheel. I just find that this wheel helps me get more saturated colors in general. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of more stuff here. I like to take this layer property thing, which I've shrunken down quite a bit, so it's kind of hard to see. I like to go ahead and take this and actually move it down to be right next to my layers. So I go ahead and I merge those two. And then these three here that are left behind, we're going to go ahead and get rid of all of those. We don't really want any of them. We don't need animation cells because we're not animating. We don't need this alignment thing. I don't even know what that does. And we can go ahead now and we can move this up a bit and make our color wheel a bit smaller. This whole area down here is where I like to keep my layers. So we have the layer tab, we have effect, which I recommend keeping, like I said before, and we have history. History will let you go back to a specific point in your undos. I don't really use this because I find it just kind of clutters the space up, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that as well. I'm also going to get rid of the auto action feature, and this might upset some Clip Studio veterans because a lot of people use these to help speed up the drawing process. I like to do everything by hand because I like the control that it gives me, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And I know that if you're drawing professionally or if you're working on like a comic or something, you'll be more likely to use auto actions because it saves time. It'll automatically apply certain effects to your work and stuff like that, but I personally don't like to do that, so I go ahead and I get rid of that. It's sort of like putting a filter on stuff, but there are separate filters that you can do. as well that are not auto actions. Auto actions would be like coloring your line art automatically or erasing along an edge automatically, but I find that it glitches out a lot and it's kind of confusing. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that alone, and we can move a couple more of these things here. Another thing that I want to keep is the color history. I'm going to go ahead and move that over. So the color history, it'll actually show you all of the colors that you've used recently, which is really helpful if you've, let's say I'm using this color here, and I change to a different color because I'm shading or something, and I want to go back and get this color here, but maybe it's like sort of muddy or there's like a bunch of other stuff on top of it, and it's hard to like select the little area that you want. I would recommend using your color history to go ahead back, and you can actually click on, it'll save all the colors you've actually used on your canvas, and you can go back and you can get the exact same color you want. I like to keep it just kind of in the background. I don't use it that often, but I'll use it sometimes. I try not to use it too much because I like a little bit of color variation, but if you're having trouble color picking the exact shade that you want, I recommend keeping color history on hand. It also saves for quite a while. This is like several illustrations worth of colors here. Like this whole thing, even colors I was just trying out for a character design that had a lot of pink colors on it. This gray was from like my New Year's art that I did. There's a lot of stuff that it will save, and you could just quickly go back to it, and it's really nice. So I would definitely recommend using your color history, which is good. So another thing that we can get rid of is pretty much everything else that we've left down here. This is kind of interesting though. You can actually keep this if you want. So color mixing is a really unique thing that some apps do. I know Paint Tool Sci does it. I don't think Krita does, but there's some that do, where you can actually sort of mix your colors on a canvas as if they were physical paints, and then you can color pick from that to get specific shades that you want. If you're having a trouble figuring out how two colors would mix in order to find what color you should be using, you can very quickly get it this way and end up with a realistically, mixed color, or just find an interesting color palette that keeps sort of in what you're going for. I don't use this a lot, but I like to keep it sometimes. I would recommend going ahead and putting it up here, and you can always resize this if you want, but keeping it up here because you probably won't be using it that often, but it is useful. So you can go ahead and put that up there if you want. The rest of this stuff though, this color slider, approximate color, and intermediate color, we're going to get rid of all that because you don't need that shit, to be frank. It's just confusing. Some people might use it if they want something super specific, but most likely you won't be using that, especially if you're painting. You won't have to worry about that too much. We can also get rid of this brush size thing down here. I prefer the sliders because it gives me better control over my brush size rather than these preset sizes. But if you're someone that draws a lot of comics and you need specific like line art sizes and stuff, you can keep this if you want. Just have it on the side. I literally never use it, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. But it is something that you can use if you are drawing comics or something like that, which Clip Studio Paint is great for. And it has a lot of comic tools, which you can see down here, like creating comic panels and stuff like that. But I'm not super good at that, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. Now that we've done that, we're also going to go ahead and go up here to this bar on the side. This bar is really useful for things like 3D modeling. You can get all your 3D stuff here. I like to go ahead and just hit this arrow thing here. It doesn't delete it. You can pop it back out whenever you want, but it hides it just so you have a little bit more room. We can also go ahead and just shrink this a little bit because we don't need it to be that big. Now you've seen that, after all the stuff that we've done here, we have a lot more room, right? There's a few things that I'm going to get rid of too, just to get them out of the way. Subview, I don't even know what that is. I'm going to get rid of it. Item bank, don't know what that is. Going to get rid of it. Information, I don't really need that either, so I'm going to get rid of it. So this is pretty much everything you'll need. This is almost identical to my setup on the other side. You can also get rid of this. This would be specifically for animating. I don't know why it shows up in the default. It's weird, but we can get rid of that as well. So that should leave us with all this stuff. This is like our bare bones, very simple drawing setup. It's the same thing I was using before. So if I go to Window and I go to Workspace, you can go ahead and click on this thing that says Register Workspace, and you can actually save this in case it ever gets reset. So I have mine here. you can reload something by clicking on it and hitting reload. So I'm going to go ahead and reload my stuff. And you can see that it's basically the exact same because we've just basically recreated it. But just to make sure everything is exactly the same and where I put it, I went ahead and I reset mine. So this is what we've created, and this is definitely a good way to do it. Now that we have our layout done, I'll go ahead and explain a couple things that will be useful, and then we'll wrap up. And I'll talk a little bit about what my future videos will be and stuff like that. So quickly, over here you'll see there's quite a few different brush options. Pretty much everything from this little bar to this bar are different brushes that you can use. I'll make a dedicated video about brushes and about where to find them and what mine are, because I have custom ones set up, not that I made, but sets that I use in all my illustrations. You're going to have different tabs. Pen tabs usually are good for pens, which you'd use a lot for like line art and stuff. I like to use the pencils a lot, pretty much for all my illustrations, because I like the sort of scratchy, sketch-like look that you get with them. Those have their own tab. You can change it so that they don't, but I like to keep them separate so I can quickly tab between them. I keep my brushes organized. These are the main brushes that I use all the time for painting, but you also can have different tabs of brushes, which you can use to organize them. Down here, we'll see a airbrush. This is a little confusing because sometimes this will change to what brush you're using, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. Your airbrush has things like, obviously, your default airbrushes, but also, some things will end up going in your airbrush because of how they're applied. You don't have to worry about that too much. You also have things like noise. I don't know if that's separated by default, but mine is for some reason. That was probably an accident. You can go ahead, if you want to change something, you can drag it, move it, that sort of thing. Pretty much the same way you would with UI. Now down here, this is where things get a little more complicated because you'll effectively have all of your special effects here. Some brushes are used for things like creating background effects. Like for example, I have this leaf brush that if I set both of my little colors here, if you've ever messed with like MS Paint, you'll kind of know what this is. It's your sort of foreground and background color. You won't use that often, but sometimes when you're messing with brushes, you will. So this will basically create leaves for you. It'll create leaf shapes, and you can like draw leaves and put them onto a tree or something. Like if you were to draw a bunch of leaves and then in a layer below it, which you can drag and drop layers as well. If you were to draw like a trunk, you can pretty much create a quick tree that way. There are a lot of these sort of background brushes, these effect brushes. You can have them in different categories. I like to separate mine by like background, like here's a grass brush, for example, or a brush for trees. If you're doing like a tree, sort of, a tree line. God, I can't think. But there's also little things like little details you could add. This is really good for comics, especially if you're drawing like a lot of different backgrounds and stuff like that. It's pretty useful for comic creation to quickly slap down some details. These are all built in, but you can also download your own. I have a ton of custom ones. I don't use them very often, but sometimes I use them for super specific things. Like I have a few bubbles or like falling petal brushes that I'll use, or some random shit like some grass or something for a background. I like to draw everything by hand if I can, but if it's something that I know is going to be blurred and I don't want to draw 5 million grass strands, it can be very useful. I'll also sometimes use it for things like a space background, like the one that I have as my branding. You can use it for little stars or, stuff like that. There's also some that you can use for clothing, which I don't recommend using these ever because they almost certainly won't fit your style, but you can use these to quickly get out little details like lace or frills, or, sorry, it's got my ugly color on it because lace or frills, or like braids, chains, that sort of thing. I recommend personally, like using like a zipper or something makes sense, but I recommend drawing things by hand if you can. I don't use many of these. A lot of mine in the clothing category are just like hair highlights or like little shinies or like, little boot laces. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Little boot laces, stuff like that. there's a lot of stuff that you can do that way. Hatching is also nice. I like to use hatching for things like highlights, which you can't see because it's white on a white background, but also for like scale brushes. Like if I'm drawing a snake or like a dragon and I don't want to draw all these little scales, you can sometimes buy or for free you can get these scale brushes, and you can kind of use them in a certain way to create a nice scale pattern. I use it a lot for like snake tails and stuff, and I have all sorts of different ones. You can also use it for things like fishnets or like tights. That's way too big. Good Lord. Lord have mercy. You can use it for like really little patterns and stuff like that, for like a realistic pattern on an illustration. There's all sorts of different things that you can do there. So that's definitely another one. You can also use these like ruled things, which are like lines. They kind of work a little bit differently. You can quickly make like uniform squiggly lines. The reason why I don't use these too much, you can use some of them, like, oh, these dash lines could be cute for like, a little bee or something, or like lines like, oh, like cut here kind of lines. You can definitely use those for a lot of things, but I personally like to hand draw them when I can. I will sometimes use them for things like glitching effects, which I don't really remember how to do, but little effects that you can't really hand draw because it's too complicated, or you could, but it would just be like really, really hard. You can use that, stuff like that for that. The ones that I use the most are these effects. I have a million billion of them. I also have quite a few background ones as well. The other ones I don't use as much, but that's that. Here, you can find things like your blur tool and your blend tool, which can be useful. You can blend this way. I don't really use it for much, but I do use the blur tool quite a bit. It's actually a brush that lets you manually blur things. I like to use this to blur backgrounds, to like make kind of a camera focus effect, that sort of thing. You can also use the fingertip brush, which lets you kind of nudge things around. This can be really useful in specific situations to create like a motion blur effect. That's usually what I end up using it for. I don't really use the rest of these, to be honest, but another tool that I definitely use is the liquefy tool. And the liquefy tool has a couple different modes, but it effectively lets you, sort of like you would in Photoshop, it lets you sort of nudge things around without erasing them. Like you can stretch stuff or unstretch stuff, or just create like crazy shapes if you really want to. There's definitely stuff like that in other apps as well. But another thing that you can do is you can also grow and shrink things. Like this, for example, will cause it to bulge outwards, and this one will cause it to shrink inwards. You can also use these other ones, like this one will twist stuff. This one twists it the other way. I don't really use these ones. I guess I don't really know what they do, but I will use this one a lot to correct anatomy mistakes. I'll use it all the time to like get a head shape right. Like, oh, if my head is sloping, you can kind of nudge it back into place. Or if your eyes are a little off, you can kind of nudge them around to get the shape that you want. It's really useful. I use the liquefy tool all the time. It's been a game changer in my drawing. You can definitely use that for all sorts of different effects. Your erasers, definitely helpful. I have a thing where I can switch between my erasers and my pens with a button on my pen quickly, but there's a few different erasers that you have. Most likely you have hard and soft. Hard eraser is the one that you'll probably be using the most. Let me go ahead and hard erasers will give you this sort of nice and soft, almost like an airbrush kind of erasure, whereas soft erasers do that. Jesus. Hard erasers will give you like a nice clean cut right through it, which can also be useful. There's some other things I have here that you won't be using. Like vector gives you like almost like pixel art kind of erasing and stuff like that. Erase along edge you don't have, but it can be useful for doing flats, which I'll talk about in another video. You also have a bucket tool. Your bucket tool has a couple different things that it can do. If you want it to fill different layers, you can kind of experiment with it. Apply to connected pixels only will prevent it from filling up your whole screen. If you have it's the opposite. I don't know. It's confusing. It's a little complicated, but I'll go into stuff like this in another time. This is just the basic layout of things that you'll be using. Another thing is gradients, and this does look confusing, but don't worry too much about it. I only use like 2 of these. There's a couple different ones you can use. I like to use foreground to transparent, and you can hold shift to make sure that that's perfectly straight. You can get things like this, which are useful for lighting effects and stuff like that. That kind of thing. You can also do foreground to background, which is it actually will transition between this color and this color. So if I change this one to green, for example, I will have a gradient like this. I use this a lot for my lighting effects and stuff like that. It can also be used for backgrounds, that sort of thing. I don't really use like literally any of these other ones. I pretty much only use these 2, and I didn't even know I had this. You know what? I'm never using that. I want to get rid of it. See ya. Didn't know that was there. So sometimes these things have their own little tabs and stuff. Line tool, that would be this down here. You definitely have some lines you can use, that sort of thing. Another way, you actually don't really need a line tool, because if you click somewhere with your brush and then go to another area and hold shift, you'll actually see a line tool come up. And if you click, it'll put a perfect line using the brush that you're currently using at the size you're using to make a straight line. And that you can actually sort of, if you just keep holding shift, you can just keep doing it, or you can let go and you can make another line, that sort of thing. It'll just go from the last area you touched, basically, and you can do all sorts of stuff with it. So that's kind of the way that I like to do my line tool, but there's also some more custom lines, and you can get some curves and stuff. There's no like circle tool and stuff like that, but there is some stuff. A lot of this I don't use, but it's good for like manga. Like you have focus lines, that sort of thing that you can do. I don't really know how that works, but yeah, you can get like these sort of manga-esque effects, that sort of thing, without having to hand draw them. There's a lot of like little tools like that. This you can use to create like comic frames, though I'm not 100% sure how that works. It uses like a special kind of layer that I'm not very familiar with, so I usually don't touch it, but they can be used if you know how to use them. You can definitely do that. You can also cut frames, that sort of thing. I usually just leave this alone. Rulers can be very helpful. I will sometimes use perspective or symmetrical rulers. If you want something to be perfectly symmetrical, you can hold shift and kind of stroke downwards, and then this will mirror something, sort of like a drawing tool would on another. This pen is so laggy. Sorry. So, sort of like I had high stabilization on that. You can get like a nice look. I don't recommend using this for like faces unless you want something to be perfectly straightforward, like a VTuber model, because it will look kind of uncanny. You also have to set it so that erasers will also be symmetrical, because otherwise you'll end up with kind of weird shit going on. I usually use it for if I'm doing like a perfectly symmetrical standing up pose for like concept art or something like that. That's usually where I would use that. So that's kind of the basics. There's also text, your text tool. You can add your own fonts. Actually, you can add font files. I actually have a custom font somewhere. Sometimes I use it for like if I'm creating an OC for something and I know that I want to use the font that the game uses. Like I have the Hoyoverse font that they use in Genshin Impact. But you can also make your own fonts. I'm trying to find mine. Maybe in you. Yeah, you can create your own fonts as well. Like if you have a fictional language that you type in, that sort of thing. I created this font. You can use font creation tools and then you can import them into here, which is really cool. I sometimes use that for like text or whatever. I'm like autistic and I made my own written alphabet for my world. This lets you create like speech balloons, but to be honest, I don't totally understand how they work. So I'm gonna not mess with that too much, but you can do it. They won't look great, but you can. But there's also some like, oh, you can get like a cool flash effect or something like that. There's more like kind of manga tools as well. So that's pretty much everything. In my brush video, I'll talk about like this stuff down here, all this information that you can mess with, but feel free to mess around with it yourself. Oh, I should also mention the selection stuff. I'm dumb. I totally forgot about all this stuff up here. You won't be using these very often, but one thing I do use a lot is the selection stuff. I like to use the lasso selection. You can hold shift and select more to add to your selection, or you can use alt to remove stuff from your selected area. This is good for filling in big blocks of color in specific areas. Like if you want to fill in right along an edge, but you don't want to like have to erase it, you can actually select just that area, and then you can fill in inside of it. Like so. You can use the selection tool for all sorts of stuff. It's useful. I like to use the lasso tool a lot, so that's another thing that I use quite a bit. You can also use this to get your dropper tool. I have mine set as a keybind to my actual tablet pen, so I can quickly press a button to do that, and then I can also switch between my eraser and my brush. That's just a way that you can set your things up on your actual drawing tablet app, which it'll probably come with like a settings app where you can assign keybinds to your buttons. But that's pretty much it. All this stuff up here you won't really use. Like edit will let you copy paste stuff. One thing that I do use sometimes, if I draw something and my canvas is too big, you can use the edit tool and go down here to change canvas size, and you can actually drag and drop. You can kind of move this out of the way, or sorry, that's actually on my top screen. I thought it was on my bottom. You can move this, but there's also a pop-up window where you can change it to a specific size. I personally just like to manually change the size, and then you can hit enter and it will resize it for you. That's another thing you can use. You can also hit back to undo that. So other than that, basically at that point you just go to file and then save as, and you can save it. It'll automatically try to save your stuff as Clip Studio Paint format. I'm not going to click that because I have a feeling it's going to open up my art folder, and I don't want you to get blasted with TOS stuff. But that will automatically open up whatever folder you last used, and you can quickly use it to like to save stuff. I recommend saving things as PNGs. That's like the most generally used one. I don't recommend using JPEGs because it will kill your quality. I don't recommend bitmap images or anything like that. PNG, really easy to use. It maintains transparency, so if you have a transparent image, I'll also show you how to do that really quick over in the layer section. You can click on the eyeball next to this bottom one that says paper. This is just the paper background. If you click on the eyeball, you'll get a transparent image. So everything you draw here will be on a transparent background. You can flip that back on, you can delete it, you can do whatever you want with it. As long as it's not visible, this will be a transparent image when you save it. So that's a good way to do transparency. If you're doing like a PNG tuber or an asset for a game or something like that, or like a logo, right, and you need it to be transparent, you can do it that way. So with the controls down here really quickly, it looks complicated. It's not as complicated as it looks. This button right here creates a new layer, right? This right here creates a folder. You can put your layers into the folder and collapse them so they're out of the way. You can name them by double clicking on where it says folder 1. So for example, if you are coloring and you have like a background on, you want a background folder, you want like a character color folder, an effects folder, line art folder, you can sort of organize stuff that way so that you don't just have a huge long list of crap, and it lets you if you're drawing something that has like 80 layers, it's very useful. You can collapse it, get it out of the way, that kind of thing. It'll be highlighted in blue when it's selected, so you know which layer you're using. You can change your layer names to whatever you want to be able to identify them easier. And if you want to change your layer property, you can go up to right here where it says normal, and you can change it to any of the layer properties that are built into any of these things. I'm going to do another episode, I guess, where I talk about lighting effects and all these different layer types, because it would take way too long to do it in this video. But that's another thing you can do. To change opacity, it's just this little thing here. And another thing that I really, really heavily recommend is using layer screens, which was like another game changer for me. Let's say, for example, you have like this little guy and you've drawn all this out, but you want to change the color, and you can't really change the color without just redrawing it or drawing over it and changing the original shape, like the shape of the head. What you can do is you can create a new layer and then hit this up here where it says clip to layer below, and this, whatever you draw in this layer with this little bar next to it, will not escape the confines of what you've already drawn here. For example, if I want to put like some yellow on this guy, watch. It's basically, you've used what you've drawn in this layer as a selection, and now you can draw on top of it without going outside the lines. What I like to do is I'll do my flats on individual layers, and then I'll use clip layers to draw right on top of the flats without overlapping with other stuff, so I don't have to constantly be erasing things and all that. You can also erase and it will bring the original color that's underneath and that sort of thing. So you can do a lot with that. I use it all the time. You can even change the transparency of your clip layer or change the effect to get different effects and stuff. You can use it for lighting really easily on certain parts of the body or like shadows. It's really useful. And one of the biggest ways that I see it used all the time is actually with colored line art. So a lot of people ask you, how do you do colored line art? Do you have to just draw in the color? No. A lot of these people are using clip layers. So you have your line art layer here, you create a clip layer, and then you can actually change the color of your line art by going over it with a new color. And you can change it to whatever color you want, basically. So this is a really good way to change your line art quickly. And then if you want, and you want to get rid of this, you can press Control E, and it will merge the two together. So this is now just a purple layer. You don't have another one on top of it. Same with this one. This is now the original layer, that sort of thing. You can also collapse this and get rid of all the layers in your folder by using the visibility thing on that. And that's pretty much it. Everything else you probably won't really use much. There are specific things that you can use for specific brushes or whatever, like draft layers you can use for that erase along edge thing that I used. But most of the time, you're not going to touch them. Most of the time, everything else in this UI, you're not going to touch. You're pretty much just using layers, clip layers, and the opacity bar. And this thing that lets you change your layer property. So that's like the long and short of it. That's the absolute basics of navigating Clip Studio Paint. All this other stuff you probably aren't going to use. You're not going to use the filter much. You're not going to use view much. You're not going to use layer much, because you can do everything down here. You don't have to mess with these very, very much at all. And I know that these are huge, big drop-down things, but most likely you're not going to be touching this stuff. You're just going to be using the basic stuff. Save as, save, Control S, whatever. New will let you create a new one, and it'll actually open it in a tab so you can quickly switch between them. You can also move these to be next to each other like you would with your UI. Another thing that I like to do is I like to go to Window, Canvas, New Window, and it will actually, it'll duplicate this, and you can actually have it be popped out in its own window. And you can drag this onto another monitor completely. What I really like to do is I like to put my drawing tablet on one monitor, and then I like to have the same canvas, like the same project on my, my drawing tablet's here on my drawing tablet. Like this is my, I'm explaining this badly. Let's say that I'm really zoomed in, right? And I'm drawing a face and I'm doing all these little details. But let's say I want to zoom out and I want to be able to quickly go back and forth without having to manually zoom in and out every time. What you can do is you can do Window, Canvas, New Window, drag it so it's a pop-out window, and then move it to another monitor so you can quickly switch between the two. Or you can have it on top, because it will always be floating on top even if you reselect this. So you can see the whole canvas, but you can also see all the little details that I'm doing. I like to use this. I'll have this full screen on my monitor, and then I'll have my drawing tablet be zoomed in so that I can see the whole canvas at once. You can also have two canvases next to each other on the same screen if you have a lot of space, like if you have a really big tablet. These are two separate canvases on the same screen. But you can also duplicate this one as well and move that to the side. So you can have this one be zoomed out and then this one be zoomed in. It's just a lot of cool little things that you can do, and it has its own scroll bar and its own little rotating things and all that. So that is the absolute basics of Clip Studio Paint. And this video is longer than I wanted it to be, and I'm sorry. I wanted it to be 20 minutes, but I don't want to skim over stuff and have people not understand it. So this is the way to navigate it, how to set it up, all that stuff. In the next video, I'll be talking about the actual drawing process, like going from a sketch to a fully colored and rendered piece. I'll be talking about how I do that and how you can do that effectively. And then from there, I'll be moving on to other things like getting brushes from the store and how to import them, 3D modeling, or well, within the confines of the app, and other things as well. I had a list somewhere. Lighting, another thing I want to do, and I also want to talk about character design, color theory, and I really want to talk about how to help you improve your art when you don't quite know what's wrong with it. Like if you look at your art and you feel like it looks like shit, but you don't know why, and you don't know how to fix it, and you're never happy with it. I want to make a video going over that and how to improve, and how to continue moving upwards, especially if you feel like you're stagnating, because I've definitely gone through phases where I'm really stagnating and I don't know how to get better. So that is definitely where this video will be ending, and I hope that you all look forward to those other ones that I want to make in the future, and I'm hoping that I'll get them out eventually. The tutorial's over, by the way. You can skip off this if you want, but to give a very quick update for people that might have saw my last video about my health, I just want to say that I am starting to feel better. I got on a new medication, and you know, for those who didn't watch the video, I have chronic fatigue syndrome, so I have a lot of health problems, and I was declining, and I was worried about that, and I made a video about it, but I'm starting to do better on this new medication. I'm no longer in that, like, worse off space. It seems to have gotten back to a normal amount of fatigue with this new medication I'm on, so I'm very happy about that, but that's not the point of this video. This video is already long enough, so thank you, everyone, for watching this video, and I really hope that it was helpful, and I hope that you learned something, and I hope that this makes stuff like Clip Studio Paint just a little less overwhelming for everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.